hair, man. Okay, are we rolling? Oh, I don't see me. Oh, I think there I am. Ooh. Hello, everybody. Ben Woodruff here. Welcome today to our first official live stream. We did one the other day. Oh, there's like a delay. That's weird. That's trippy. That's okay. That's all good. That's all good. But hey, everybody. Earlier, last week we did a test of the live stream, and then a lot of people hopped on, and we ended up talking and answering a bunch of questions. It was a lot of fun. So, but this is the first official one. So, we've got a moderator here helping. So, if you guys have questions, feel free to type that. I think we'll have links below if you want to support on Patreon or send emails with questions. We're gonna have a link to most recent book, Trapping Essentials. You can get that from Western Sporting Publications, and it's a book on how to trap for falconry or wildlife rehab, wildlife education. If you're a biologist, you need to know how to get a bird from the wild. This will teach you how. So, but I think we'll jump in first with a few questions, and then we'll probably end up evolving into stories. It always happens that way. So, I'm going to have my moderator. We'll just... You're really quiet. Okay. Sounds kind of quiet. Also, checking from you guys. It's really hot today. I've got air conditioning going. Is that too distracting? We can try to turn it off and suffer through if it's too distracting. But let us know in the chat if that is too much or not. Hopefully it isn't too much. That's what we're hoping for. We're just getting things in line. This was a hectic day today. Racing, everything conspired against me to try to be here on time. So, but we got pretty close on time. All right. Okay. Let's see. We're gonna test some sound here really quick. Okay, how about this? Is this, can you hear this louder? We're trying to mess with sound. So let me know, is this louder when I hold it that close? Or is that still too quiet? Dang it. We've got some different mic options we can potentially look at. We're just trying to figure out the best way to do this.
Hi, thanks for your patience. Can you guys at least hear me well?
Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Seems like it's picking up louder. Hello, hello. This is closer. That's it, that's it. We good?
Yeah, we're great.
Cool. It's okay, I'll just hold it. Technology is amazing. It really is incredible. It's funny because, you know, you want to be out in nature. Most people who like falconry or like birds of prey, they love nature, and there's part of them that wants to disconnect from the modern world. And here we are having a live stream with live video cameras, live internet, live microphones, and we can connect anywhere in the world. So it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing, right? It's like, you know, on the one hand, it's like, oh, we should all be out sitting by a campfire together with our birds just talking. Which, by the way, as you can see, we're still trying to get used to the technicalities of stuff here, and that's not easy. So I want to have a bird here. I want to be holding a bird and or have a bird on a perch behind me. Maybe have my Harris hawk sitting back there. But we just want to make sure that everything is in place and is running okay first before that, because anytime, I don't know if you noticed, any of you who have been longtime viewers of my channel will notice my earliest videos, I would go out in the wilderness and I would just hold a bird and I would just do the whole thing. But it threw me off because the whole time I was just kind of having a hard time, like watching, making sure the bird's okay, making sure the bird's okay. So you gotta have a bird be solid. So that's why I started just sitting in this chair and just doing, you know, just having, just editing photos in. Okay, we might have, it's gonna be too, that's gonna be too delicate. Okay, we'll just keep holding. All right. Yeah. We'll figure out for next time. Now, is that too loud? It looked like it was going over the top once in a while. Should I hold it further away like this? So we got this. Is this a good distance? What do you guys say? This, okay. All right. So we are going to go through some questions. We're going to tell some stories, and we're going to help you out with whatever you want. So, so we're going to go through. Do we have any of the questions from last time? We just got them all. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, basically, yeah, I can't see the real-time questions. Can you see them?
Yeah, I can see, if you look on the right-hand side of your screen, that's where they're appearing.
Okay. Okay. If you want to...
Yeah, so I got a question from you. So BG Took 84 asks, would pea gravel in a red-tailed mew cause dull talons?
That's a fair question. That's what I use. I use pea gravel, and it can, but it depends. So a couple of the factors. Is your bird just hanging out on a perch, or is it jumping around? If you have it tied to a perch and it's baiting a lot, then it might. But you can always resharpen them. You can resharpen them with a Dremel or having them in water. Some red tails will not bathe readily, especially their first year. But it's almost magical. The way keratin grows on fingernails and on talons is that if you soak it long enough, it'll just slough off those outer layers just like magic. You can do really hot water too, as well, if you've got a red tail that won't bathe. So I would be in favor. I just think pea gravel is a very easy substrate to clean, and I just think it's an easy one. So it will dull the talons if they're baiting a lot, but I still think it's a good choice. I think it's really usually what I prefer for flooring. Now, it also depends, too, on where you're at in the world, because humidity is always a factor as well. Something we have to worry about is how humid it is. Things like bark. I've seen people do bark before, and that's actually really bad, because that can cause asperspores to build up. So you want something that's washable, but that dries out easy as well. And usually, I just think pea gravel is really good. I think it's a good trade-off. But I don't know. Some people just do cement. I know some breeders have big, giant cement facilities and do that, and it works. And they just hose it all down. They just have massive things with falcons flying around. In the Middle East, they do sand. Sand's pretty easy to clean. You know, you can just scoop out the poop, kind of like a kitty litter box. But sand can also hold on to water more than pea gravel can. So you want to keep it dry. You want it not to be moist in there. Okay, let's see. Alaska soon. Hope just. Oh yeah, rough-legged hawks or jeers. That's incredible. Seeing you're asking about or commenting on going to Alaska. I see rough-legs here, but it would be just so magical to see rough-legged hawks in Alaska. You know, firsthand, to just be able to see them in the wild like that, the northern end of their range. We get rough-legs also that come from Siberia, for them, it's easier for them to migrate south. For them, it's easier to go across the Bering Land Bridge down Canada all the way to Utah than it is to go up and over the Himalayas. But yeah, rough-legs and jeers. We get jeer falcons in Utah occasionally. I've seen them a few times. I've never caught a wild jeer, but I always thought that would be the absolute coolest thing, to catch a migrating wild jeer. So what happened to the Merlin? I ended up setting her free. Worked with her for a bit. She was doing pretty good, but I got so busy with everything else at work. From just figuring things out after the stroke and the cardiac arrest, then it was just a lot of work. Because of the museum right now, I'm trying to get the museum's YouTube channel up and running as well. And that was taking so much extra time. So I bring my Merlin with me to work every day and just like work with her on the lure there and have some fun. But I ended up setting her free just as a time commitment. And sometimes that's the right choice. Sometimes it's like, hey, plow through and just keep working with your bird. And sometimes if you don't have the time, it's better to pass the bird on. So she is now out in the wild doing her thing. So she even chased when I set her free, she went up just circling around as close to sunset. She went up, I don't know, maybe 100, 150 feet, and she saw not a horned lark, what am I thinking of? Canyon wren. She started chasing a canyon wren. I didn't see if she caught it or not, but that was pretty cool to see. Last time I saw her flying away. It's pretty cool.
Sorry, someone said that they were picking up double audio, so I was wondering if I was too close to you and your mic was grabbing me as well while I have mine. So sorry guys, I'm kind of mixing up some things here in the background.
Yeah.
But you do have a question. What's the best tree foliage to deter asperspores?
Asperspores. Any conifer. I mean, literally any conifer, but spruces and firs and pines are really good, both having them grow near your mews, but also for cutting them up. I cannot remember. I know I did a video on it, but I cannot remember the falconer who pioneered the idea, and he got the World Health Organization to even help when he's like, hey, this is actually very helpful information towards humans, too. But yeah, any conifer will do. The interesting thing is, accipiters will put conifer sprigs in their nest to deter asper growth, and they'll keep replacing it. But the interesting thing is that in deciduous forests like eastern United States, where there's not a lot of pines and firs, the goshawks will take other green leaf litter and still do it. So we don't know, is there something we're not sure about? I don't think that deciduous foliage will do any good. Maybe it's just they have the genetics in them to say, hey, take green stuff around, put it in the nest as a deterrent, and that's what they're trying to do, and it's not doing as much good as it would, but it's just kind of just instinctive behavior. That's what I think it is. But it definitely, pines, firs, and spruces, especially pine trees. It's the resins, the terpenes inside that do it.
You got a couple new hellos. We got one from Quebec.
Hello.
And then let's see. Cameron asks, is there a best time of year to release a bird if you're going to do that?
So I mean, it kind of depends on your area. That's a big part of it. But normally, at the end of the molt, at the end of the hunting season, like early spring, like around here, I would say like March, April, early May would be the time, because then the bird has hopefully had enough skill. You've given it good hunting skill, and it's starting to molt, or just about to molt, and you're releasing at a time where there should be a high prey base. Because if you're doing it at the end of winter, like January, February, that's a rough time to go back into the wild. If you have a guaranteed meal every day, even if you're hunting your bird every day, to then go back into the wild, like that's not that they can't survive, but that can be rough. So I would say early spring is probably my normal recommendation. We had a friend who flew big old huge eastern redtail for years, and then I flew it for a couple of years, and then I set it free, and I found it like a month later, and she was so fat that she could not fly. I'm like, what is this bird just sitting here? It's not fried. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Utana. And I went out looking, and I went over to her, and I picked her up, and I'm like, well, she filled her all over, and she's just hog fat, just literal fat reserves. And I'm like, okay, so I went to set her free, and she couldn't fly. She had been eating that well. So, I mean, that just goes to show how falconry can really help key in a bird to where they learn skills that they wouldn't otherwise have in the wild. So, but yeah, normally springtime is when I usually try to release a bird. I mean, it depends. It all depends. If you trap a bird and, after a few days the bird's like psycho bird and it wants to be wild at all costs, it's like, yeah, just set it free. Don't have to worry about it. But normally, if you've flown a bird and you've been doing it right, I'd say early spring.
All right, we got some more highs. We got one from Ontario.
Hello.
And then we also have someone from Uzbekistan.
Oh, sweet.
His name is Umar, and he's got a couple of questions.
Okay.
So he's asked, when are you going to make a video about micro-hawking? I know I already made one, but more specifically with right types of birds of prey, housing equipment, stuff like that. And he also asks about your thoughts on Uzbekistan falconry.
I don't know a whole lot about Uzbekistan falconry. I know that a lot of the falconry over in that region is so old that it's refined. It's well refined. I would like to do some micro-hawking. I really want to do one on shikras. And one of the biggest things that's preventing me from doing it is I've got a lot of information about shikra hunting, but I don't have photos or footage. And it's like, I hate just me talking. To me, that's really obnoxious. Maybe you don't care. Maybe you guys are like, hey, it's good information. You got a picture here and there, fine. But I'm trying to get some good information on working with shikras, so I can do a good video on it. I'll try to do... hopefully by fall we can get some good micro falconry stuff out. If you go way back in my videos, I've got a lot of things on them, like working with kestrels or jesses for small birds, or the fur-lined anklets for owls and little birds like that. I do that a lot of times on Merlins too. I'll take weasel fur. I don't think you can see it in the back. Yeah, it's just out of view. I got some weasel furs, and I'll just cut a strip out and use that for the jesses. But I very much need to do that. I've got a huge list of videos, and so I always want to keep up to date with what you guys are asking for, and I also have a big backlog of videos that I'm working on and researching on and putting together.
So I've got two questions that I'm going to kind of combine together. One is from Alice Dorr, who asked, I'm going to take the falconry test later this month. Any advice? And then Co-TW Superfan asks, hey, from Indiana, I'm a middle school student and plan to prepare falconry soon. Do you have any tips to prepare?
Yep. So across the board, if you look online, I don't even know where, probably Mike's Falconry Supplies might have them, Western Sporting might have them, but look up the California Hawking Guide. The California Hawking Club made 2 apprentice study guides. There's the apprentice study guide and the apprentice manual. I don't remember what's the difference between them, but those are really near perfect for studying for the test. My best advice for you when you're going into the test is don't psych yourself out. It is okay to not pass. So go in steady, but understand that some state, like you guys, some states are so stupid. When I took the falconry test in Utah, it was the same test for people who also getting a license to band waterfowl. So like, I trapped a goose and I'm going to put a band on it. So there's all these dumb questions about waterfowl that had nothing to do with anything. And they're like, name the only small dark-eyed owl and name the only hawk with obovate nostrils. I'm like, I've never even heard the word obovate. Who's ever used it? I bet none of you falconers on here who are long timers have ever used the term obovate. And I think it was a goshawk or something, and it was just like some weird smushed oval. And I'm like, how is that helping you to be a good falconer to know, oh, this bird has an obovate nostril? So the questions can be really dumb. So my best advice is go in there already being okay if you don't pass. Yeah, it's great if you pass the first time, but go in there because this is your first time to see what your state is going to ask. So go in there and bring paper with you in your car, and as soon as you get out, you write down everything that you didn't understand. Try to remember everything that kind of was confusing to you or you didn't understand. Write it down and study it for the next time, because there's no harm. You take it as many times as you need. It's great if you pass it the first time. But again, those tests in most states are not set up to be really fair. They're kind of some wildlife officer wrote it up, and it's just kind of, whatever. It's just kind of a formality. So it's okay if you don't pass. Study all you can. Go in there accepting that you might not pass and that you're okay with it, and that you're going to come back the next time having taken notes ahead of time. So that's my best advice on that.
We got a hi from Oregon from Boyd McComber.
Hello.
This falconry test was very straightforward and followed the California Hawking Guide very closely.
Sweet. Yeah, California Hawking Club's pretty good. Pretty good. They've got that's really a good publication.
Okay, and then a question from Harold says, question, in your opinion, which would be better for smaller birds, a Sharpie or Merlin?
That's tough. So I've got a video comparing the two, and it was interesting. Sharpies will catch more, Merlins will catch less, but but fewer will get away. So in other words, if a Merlin touches it, it's caught. If a Sharpie catches it, it might still get away. If you, I would say. It kind of depends on what your game is too. I would, in general, a sharp-shinned hawk. This is the sad truth. I've said this before. This is the sad truth. Sharp-shinned hawks are not long-term birds. In the wild, they die. In captivity, they die. Something happens. A Cooper's hawk grabs them. They run into a window. Something happens. So, a sharp-shinned hawk is an incredible first bird if you got a lot of time to hunt it. But it's kind of rough if you get really attached. Where a Merlin, you're going to be able to keep it as long as you want. It's probably going to be able to outrun anything that comes after it. And if you're hunting small birds, they're both great for it. If it's just flash and dash, do a sharpshin. But if you got some good open country where you can build a little bit of speed, then a Merlin is great. But I mean, I've car hawked Merlins too. I mean, you can chuck them out the window. But I mean, I've also hunted Merlins from a mile away. I'll just put them up, a mile and a half from a flock of starlings, and they go up and they're rousing and preening, and I'm just sitting in the car watching, and then they look over there and they see, a mile away there's a flock of starlings. They start bobbing, and then they go and they build up speed, dive through, catch one. So
I think a Merlin is more of an open area bird, but you can still fly them in fairly, tight areas compared to the big falcons. But that's kind of my thoughts on the two. I love them both. If you ever ask anybody who's flown a sharpshin, they'll be like, that's really the most fun I've ever had with a bird. Like, why don't you have one now? I don't know. It's usually what they'll say.
Okay. I see 2 questions I guess one's about red-tailed hawks and red-shouldered hawks.
Okay.
The first one was from JD. He asks, why are red-tails always hanging out on telephone poles by road? Doesn't the traffic sound affect them, or are they so locked in? And then EH94 says, hello from California, Ben.
Hello.
What is your overall opinion on flying a red-shouldered hawk? I have breeding red shoulders, red tails, and kestrels on my property, and I'd love to fly a red shoulder hawk.
Okay. All right. So the first thing is red tails. So why are red tails always hanging out by the roads? The main reason is originally it has to do with kind of the evolution of civilization. So we had roads that were, pathways for wagons and things like that, and horses. And then when you started to have telegraph poles, people put the telegraph poles along where the road was, because you're not going to go off in La La Land to go set them up. So by those edges were where you also had farm fields. And so red tails slowly over the past 150, 200 years have learned in the United States and Canada, they have learned, hey, this is actually advantageous. If I sit on this thing, I'm usually by a farm field or an open area, usually near a road. People have cut things at least directly by the road. There's the access and that shoulder area there. So it has benefited. So the red tails that are less fearful of humans and put up with all the commotion are the ones who have done great. Swainson's hawks have beaten them out. Swainson's hawks will nest. I cannot find. I have a video somewhere of a Swainson's hawk nesting on like a 5-foot tall bunch of sagebrush, and it's like literally 5 feet off of a busy road, and they're just nesting right there. Swainson's hawks, when they go down to Argentina for the winter, people chuck them meat. So they have learned even more so. They're almost as bad as pigeons, where pigeons are just like, oh, I'm just walking in between your legs, no problem. That's kind of how Swainson's are. Red tails have learned to put up with it, and the ones who haven't put up with it have been out-competed by the ones who do put up with human incursion. So on the red-shouldered hawks, I love them. Having talked with Matt Mullenix, I've talked with several people who hunted them. I recommend giving them a try. They're built like an accipiter. Even though they're a buteo, they're built like an accipiter. They have a nice long tail, short broad wings. They should be super fast. Everybody I've talked to who has flown them and even hunted them successfully has said they're not as gamey. It's kind of like the people who have flown both peregrines and lanners. They say, oh, peregrines are super gamey, and lanners, yeah, you can hunt them, but they're no peregrine. It's kind of the same kind of thing. Red-shouldered hawks, they're not as gamey, but you absolutely can get them to do so. I think it would be interesting depending on which region they came from. Because, there's red shoulders in California. There's red shoulders all throughout, the eastern United States. And if they're hunting a lot of invertebrates like frogs and stuff, those are individuals that are probably going to be less good for hunting. But the ones that are going more after rodents, they're more likely to be able to level up, kind of like red tails do. Red tails are rodent hunters, but we get them to hunt rabbits. So Matt Mullenix said, ironically, he also flew some broadwing hawks, which are tiny. It's our smallest buteo, and he said that though they were better, he hunted starlings with them. So apparently they're a lot faster. Now a friend of mine is hunting a gray hawk right now. It's molting, and we're going to do some collaboration. We've done some little collaboration before, but we're going to get some on that too, because a gray hawk genetically branched off from red-shouldered hawks. And if you look at the pattern, just take a photo of a red-shouldered and just make it black and white, and you're like, oh, I can see it with the pattern. Okay, and the tail, all right, yeah. So I think that if you push them, they're great on cottontails, and I think you could also car hawk them on starlings and pigeons and things like that, but most people have not given them a fair try. So that's my thought on those two.
Sorry, the feed dropped for a second.
Oh, no.
So
Christmas is ruined.
yeah.
Oh.
If you guys can refresh it, close it out, whatever you need to do, just get it going again. We're still live.
We're still live. And holding my big old clunky mic. Well, we'll figure that out for next time. I love this mic. You know, doing the Skinwalker Ranch show. Well, and I also used to work at Evermore Park. And so at Evermore Park, a lot of times I was rubbing elbows online with real big wigs in like Hollywood or creature effects industries or Lucasfilm, stuff like that. And same thing, Skinwalker Ranch, a lot of times I'll end up being on here talking with a lot of big wigs. And this mic, I think it was just like $60. And I've had people say, you know, like, whoa, like professionals in these industries, and they're like, wow, where did you get that mic? Oh my gosh, that's such a good mic. And I'm like, it was like $60, but it seems to be really good. It seems to do the trick. So for live feeds, maybe we ought to work with this guy.
Okay. All right, so we've got eating for a living. It's a video request.
Mm-hmm.
You ever thought about doing some hunting videos?
Yes. I intend to, every time I do. The hard thing is I used to have like a good network of falconry friends, and a lot of them now are like, they've moved away and they're in other places, and that's what I really need, is somebody to go out with where I can film them, they can film me. Here, you hold the bird, I'll film. So I desperately need to do that. I'm committed to doing that this fall once we hit hunting season, get things going again. But yeah, I need to do that. The reason why I never did before, let me answer this. I'm always worried. People will always take things out of context, and so falconry is the most natural thing on Earth. If humans went extinct, raptors would still hunt other animals without humans being there. So it's a natural experience for predator and prey. But still, if you have some clip and somebody takes a little chunk of that clip, puts it out of context, and then uses it in some video, and it's like, falconers go around killing things with their birds. It's like, no, the birds are doing it. It's what the birds do. But so I've been wary of how I post things. If I ever have a bird on a kill in my videos, I usually try to angle the camera where they're kind of mantling over it, where you're not seeing as much, of the dispatching kind of thing. So I try to be mindful of that. But I definitely need to get some good hunting videos in. And I want to go film some of my friends too.
He added on to that, you should do some point of view hunting vid with your eagles, but I believe you don't have eagles at the current moment, right?
Yeah, right now I don't have any eagles. I've had so many eagles, bald eagles and golden eagles, and I technically was the first person under the new laws. There's so many firsts. This is not an important bragging right. This is just a technicality. But when they made the new laws, I know I just figure some federal agent's going to hear this, and I didn't do anything illegal, but I just feel like some federal agent's going to be watching this and be like, let's jab at him back because of this. But they made the new laws, and in the new laws they said, hey, a falconer can get any bird from a rehabber. If the rehabber's authorizing it, you can just transfer it directly. And they also technically made it that a falconer in the United States could have more than one golden eagle. And I already had a falconry golden eagle and an education golden eagle, and I had a rehabber friend who was like, hey, do you want this eagle? And I'm like, let's do it. So I called up the feds and I said, okay, you did the new laws, and as long as I'm following these, this is how it says, I'm good, right? And they're like, yeah, why? And I'm like, okay, not asking permission, just filing out transfer papers here, and transferred an eagle directly from a rehabber. And now they do stuff like that. Like, there's opportunities for that all the time, and there's different things going on. So, but that was kind of starting a little new ground, that one that we did. But yeah, I'm not currently flying any eagles right now. Have a mix of birds, but no eagles currently.
All right, we've gotten quite a few comments. Thank you guys, everyone, for your comments.
Thank you so much.
We've just got also a couple of questions piled up, so I'm gonna prioritize them. We've got Cameron who asks, what would you change about the permitting process / legal requirements in the United States for falconry?
Oh, I'm torn because my whole life I liked kind of the idea of the apprenticeship system, but it can be so hard for an apprentice to, if you're in an estate where you can't find somebody or no falconer wants to, there's no legal obligation. So if you're in a state and no falconer will sponsor you, it's like you're just out of luck. And it's like, well, that seems really stupid. The government regulates falconry as a hunting sport. You don't have to do that with other hunting sports. You just get your hunter safety stuff and get your permit and you're good to go. So I don't know what the answer is, but I don't like how it's done now. It's kind of one of those, and okay, I don't want to start too much discussion on this, but let me say it's kind of like with the whole freedom of speech. If you limit freedom of speech, then that seems good to not have some bad things be said, but then you're also going to run into some problems because then who gets in control and starts controlling speech? It's kind of like that. It's like I believe in having wildlife laws to protect wildlife, but the more laws we have, the more they kind of tighten the nooses around us, the less we can do, the less rights and less freedoms we have. And honestly, let's be honest, any other wildlife like ducks, pheasants, things like that, 2 generations out, I think it's only 2 or 3 generations of captive breeding, they're considered domesticated by our government, even if it was a wild animal. Canadian goose, if you can verify with bands, oh, this is like 2-3 generations in, you don't need a permit for it. So that kind of makes sense to me. I know I think Ontario, I think they do that, where it's like if it's captive bred, you need a hunting permit, but you don't need a falconry permit. And even though there's part of me that's so against that, and it's like, no, we should have regulations, the general rule, my general thought is I'm for less regulations. Always. Even though that's going to bring in, the less regulations we have, that's going to bring in a whole new set of problems. But again, it's kind of like, which set of problems do you want to deal with? I would rather deal with less regulations. So that's just my overall thing. I could go bit by bit by bit, but really I mean, I got into this when you could only have 3 birds as a master, and you had to start off with the Kestrel or Redtail. So we've made some good headway with that. Now an apprentice can have just about anything. But I just think less regulations is better. I think people need falconry. And you don't have to do it forever. You don't have to do falconry forever. You can be like, oh, this is fun. I did it for a season. And then like, well, that was a lot of work. I'm going to get out of it. And then you get into it again 10 years later and do it with your friends. You can do that. It's okay. It's pretty cool. Okay. What was the other one? Was on the other one?
No, that was the only question I had given you at the time. Let's see. I've got a comment from Ironhead Bill who says, I'm one of those that is out of luck. Had been at it for 15 years before I gave up. Always got told not sponsoring right now, but get asked if they can hunt on my property.
Oh, jeez. See, that's terrible. And that's where we're running into the problem. If you're in a state like California or even Utah, we normally have 200 to 300 falconers, give or take. You know, some of them might not be actively practicing, but you can usually find some. But there's states where there's like 5 or just 15 falconers. So I feel like there should be a legal exemption. If no falconer is willing to, I feel like the mandate should fall on the government, and the government should say, okay, you've done your due process, and just there's got to be a way, or even if they said, hey, look, I will watch like online videos, or hey, I'm going to take an online course with a falconry school, some British falconry school, or there's a lot of falconry schools, something like that. Like, I'm going to still learn the basics, but that's crummy. That we've got to, and this wasn't my attitude. This is maybe the last 5 years has shifted. We've got to be encouraging people to get into falconry, even if it's only for a short time. Even if it's only for a season or 2, we've got to get some new blood and get some new enthusiasm. And otherwise, we're going to lose our rights. The fewer falconers there are, the easier it is for the government to sweep us under the rug.
Okay. I'm pulling up the oldest question that I'm seeing at the moment. JEL's asked if you've been drawing lately.
I haven't been drawing enough. I have been doing some drawings, mostly dinosaurs, and just for. I started a new channel, YouTube. Well, I got a few. So I've got this channel, and I recently started a new channel called Desert Lore, which that's just kind of like going into archaeology and paleontology and taking you on some of my adventures. Just a couple of days ago, I started a brand new YouTube channel also that is called Ben's Wildlife. Pretty lame name, but that one I'm going to repurpose some of my biology videos from this channel, but I'm also going to do other stuff too, like, you know, reptiles and mammals, and, you know, so I'll have that one too. But yeah, really, I've done for some of these videos for some of these channels, I've been doing some art, but not enough. I need to do some more and post some more, because I've been really getting back into Mesoamerican art and theology, so you're probably going to have some cool Mesoamerican art coming out from me soon.
Okay, and then we have Umar, who asks, can peregrine falcon be flown without telemetry?
Telemetry?
Okay, telemetry. How often may I lose the bird without it? Because it's so hard to find this kind of tools in my region, but I want to fly long wings. Please advise.
So, I'll give you the crappy answer and then the honest answer. The crappy answer is, if you don't have telemetry or GPS, you shouldn't fly a long wing. Now, I'm going to counter that. That's bullcrap, because we have been doing falconry for thousands of years, and we've only had telemetry just barely. So you absolutely can. And honestly, if you're going to fly a long wing without telemetry, peregrine is the best one to do. It's absolutely the best species to do. My recommendation is be absolutely sure to get your weight management dialed in well before you start free flying that bird. Get a daily routine of the time of day you're flying your bird. I mean, that's a general rule anyways. But I use bells, and I still do on some of my hawks. You know, I still use bells. But bells are better than nothing. That's what we've used for thousands of years. And you just got to know your bird, and you might eventually lose them. But just get your bird really loyal. Get your bird where it's always thinking about you. If you're flying without telemetry, you don't want to fly something like a prairie or a gyr falcon, or, you know, even a saker. I feel like flying a saker falcon without telemetry is asking for it. Which, again, people flew sakers for thousands of years without telemetry. But a peregrine falcon is the best thing. Get them dialed in so they're always looking at you for food. Get them to, you know, go up a little and call them back down. Go up a little further, call them back down. And get them so they're always keyed in on looking at you. And you absolutely can still do it. I would recommend getting telemetry if you can. But if you can't, we got like 7,000 years of falconry history behind us of doing this sport and flying long wings without telemetry. So, you know, even though it's not the best, we did it for thousands of years. So my hat's off to you, and I encourage you to still do it.
Okay, got some comments, got some questions. I think you'll like this one. Kiki Yushima says, when I saw you on Skinwalker Ranch, I had to do a double take. I was like, that sounds like Ben. Then the little cut-in with your name popped up.
That makes me happy. The new season just came out. I should be in it a lot more, and we're gonna film a lot more with me in it that we're just about to start in July. So the season we filmed last year is coming out now. The first episode was last week. Was it Tuesday, Wednesday is the next episode. And I think I'm in that one because there was a soundbite in the intro, and it's like, something is eating coyotes, and it's me talking about it. It's like, oh, are they really going to jump into me analyzing poop from predators right off the bat? But yeah, the Skinwalker Ranch stuff is I love being involved with it because it's real, and that's what ticks me off, because whatever's happening on Skinwalker Ranch defies logic, and it covers multiple scientific disciplines. You don't see even a fraction of what goes on there. And again, I guess, should I say it about the falcon? I'm going in and out. Well, okay.
I mean, I wouldn't risk it.
Okay,
if
I'm not
you
going to
don't
risk it.
want to.
We have to. There's NDAs we have to sign, but I'm hoping that they'll let us release some footage of something insane that happened on the ranch with my falcon and John Griggs's falcon. We brought a couple peregrines and we did something crazy, and something crazy happened, and we got it on film and we got it on GPS transmitters, and they were going to put it in the next season, but then there were people in that scene who are no longer on the show, and they're like, oh, well, we can't do it now. I'm like, dude, this crazy thing happened that transcends reality. You got it on film and GPS. But yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff still coming up.
All right, I got a question from Ellen Faulkner, who asks, fantasy question, would a harpy eagle or goldie be capable of taking a wild turkey or a white-tailed deer?
Yes, both of them. Both of them 100% could. So we do the harpy first. A harpy, it's crunch. And harpy eagles do hunt white-tailed deer in Mexico. They actually do hunt white-tailed deer. We always think of whitetails as being North American, but they range all the way down to South America. It's just weird. We don't have whitetails in Utah. We barely don't. We get them in Idaho, just to the north, but we don't have whitetails here. So harp eagles can, and they actually do. A golden eagle, yeah. So I know I have a friend. Well, yeah, that's too much. An acquaintance, a falcon or acquaintance that we talk often, who accidentally caught a turkey with a gyrfalcon on Thanksgiving Day years ago. It was awesome. That bird was so cropped up and was so happy. So a lot of things have to do with tenacity. For a bird to tackle larger prey, it's about tenacity and you coming in there and helping them out. So unfortunately, tackling larger prey, unless you have an advantage, it can get gory. So if you have an advantage, if you go online, you've probably seen the videos of golden eagles grabbing bighorn sheep and dropping them off cliffs, and also other cousins of bighorn sheep over in like Spain and stuff. They grab them, they drop them off, and they go eat them. So you're letting gravity do the work. But a few years ago, biologists sent me a series of just horrific photos of a golden eagle in Wyoming that was eating a full-grown buck pronghorn antelope, and you could tell he'd been trying to eat him for hours. Like, he'd knock him over and like tear out some pieces, and this poor thing was kind of bleeding out. It was pretty gory. So nature's cruel, but I have no problem thinking that a golden eagle could catch. I mean, I've had goshawks catch full-size deer, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just backing off, and it's just the deer's bucking and jumping, and the goshawk leaves. I'm like, I'm not jumping in there. I'm So a bird can catch something much larger. Golden eagles and harpies, both of them definitely can do turkeys easily. And a harpy, they do hunt whitetails. A golden could, but you'd have to rush in there really quick to help dispatch it. The roe deer they hunt in Europe, much smaller than our whitetails. But they can. If they caught them and they were keeping them down and you ran in there, they absolutely could be trained to do so.
Yeah, related question for eating for a living says, has anyone ever used a harpy eagle for falconry?
I'm not 100% sure. I know there was a falconer associated with the Peregrine Fund who had a big giant male, and I think he did some falconry, and I'm again, got messed up brain, so my memories aren't also there. I feel like I have memories from in the 1970s of somebody also hunting with a trained harpy eagle. So I think people absolutely have. And then of course you never know down in Mesoamerica. I don't speak Spanish. I don't know the people down there directly. I'm sure there's people who have, because a lot of people have kept them. It would be an epic bird to fly. That would be really cool. The only ones I've worked with have been briefly up at the Peregrine Fund, and it's just so powerful. They're so much more bird than you would expect. Holding them, they're nuts.
Okay, and then I've got a question from Back 40 Outdoors, who says, I'm in Canada and we are allowed to start with kestrels, but I'm curious if Merlins are just as easy to train as kestrels.
A Merlin is easier to get up and hunting. A kestrel usually, especially if you're in Canada, I mean, they know cold. They understand cold, and they can understand really quickly, whoa, this human's letting me live inside, and they're giving me free food. So I would think you would probably be able to train a kestrel faster. But across the board, a Merlin is a far better hunting bird. But again, you can pretty easily fly a kestrel without telemetry, because if a kestrel misses, they're going to go land on the closest tree, where a Merlin's going to keep chasing and chasing. I mean, I've had Merlins chase for a mile, so you're having to get telemetry, else you're going to lose your Merlin. But that would be between the two. A kestrel is a good starter bird because, again, they don't range out as far. You don't necessarily have to invest in telemetry. It's a good idea too, but if you can't, you're still okay. And you can hunt starlings, sparrows, things like that. And so I think a kestrel is a really good bird. But I mean, if you're dedicated and you're into it, a Merlin's a much better hunter, infinitely better hunter. Merlins are the only birds that repeatedly I've had catch prey accidentally, where I'm just as a training fighter. This is the first free flight, and they won't take off and catch something. Normally, you're having to try to orchestrate some sort of advantage for your bird, but Merlins are just that good. So that's my thoughts on that.
So he has a follow-up to that. He asks, we have an abundance of pigeons around. Would a kestrel be able to hunt them?
A kestrel should not be able to. Some people have. Now, for those of you on the other side of the world, all your old world kestrels they dwarf. They're big. They're bigger even than a Merlin. So you got to understand, American kestrels are tiny. They're much smaller than a Merlin. Old world kestrels, I have caught pigeons with. Kestrels, I know a few people who have had some situations where they've caught them with, but it's really asking for it. It's not normal. Merlins, the old world name from like medieval times for a Merlin is a pigeon hawk, because they are built to catch pigeons with ease. And that's my favorite thing to do with Merlins, is to catch pigeons. So if you have a lot of pigeons, between the two, if you even a starling is a lot for a kestrel. Northern kestrels are bigger than the ones we have here in Utah, but still, it would be such an exception to get a pigeon with a kestrel. But you could do it regularly with a Merlin with no problem. They'll dial in, and one of my smallest female Merlins, she would catch a pigeon, and I'd go over to help her, and she'd always have one foot on the ground, and she'd have one foot around its neck, and she'd look up at me like with this sadistic evil, and like she's like squeezing, and she'd snap the neck like this instead of going down and biting it. I'm like, whoa, and just poor pigeon. So yeah, Merlins can definitely do pigeons, so I definitely recommend that.
I believe this is relevant. EH94 asks, could a kestrel take a mourning dove, much smaller than pigeons or collared doves?
Yes, by strength, not likely by speed, but if you're car hawking, then that would be the opportunity to do it. Or, I mean, in theory, if you trained him to wait on, or you'd have to give an extreme advantage, because a mourning dove can leave a kestrel in the dust. My friend John Griggs has done it a few times. We go out car hawking together, and he, check out the window, and you got a bunch of doves just kind of chilling on the ground, and that happens. So yeah.
So we've got Mundo, who says, in Germany we call a kestrel a Termfalke. Sorry, I don't know Germanic languages, I apologize, which means something like tower falcon.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's normal that they'd be hanging around close to civilization. Yeah, some raptors just acclimate well to being near people and to being civilization. Kind of like cats did. Cats evolved to kind of hang around near. Coyotes, same thing. Coyotes are like, it's advantageous to be near humans. And, barn owls have done that. Kestrels have done that. Red-tails and Swainson's hawks to some degree, where a lot of other raptors, they're like, no. Like Ferruginous hawks, like, no, I can't be anywhere near people. It's too terrifying.
So I just want to make sure this question gets answered before it gets buried. This one was from Umar, who asks, do you think white-tailed sea eagle will make a decent falconry bird?
Yes, I think you would. White-tailed sea eagle, I would do a male. And I would try to go after waterfowl, either from flying them from a pitch, or off the fist, like if you have, like if you have kind of like a canal, a little ditch where there's waterfowl in it, and you can go run up and chuck them off the fist that way, then they could definitely do it. Your big northern sea eagles, stellar sea eagles, bald eagles, white-tailed sea eagles, they're really cool birds, but they're built far better to scavenge and to hunt fish. But still, some of the most acrobatic raptors are fish eagles. Like down in Australia, I can't remember, I think it's gray-bellied sea eagle, the African fish eagle. I would kill to try to hunt ducks with an African fish eagle. So I think it's just about dialing them in, just about getting them to do their thing. So yeah, I have not done a white-tailed sea eagle, but I think it will be very similar to a bald eagle, and I've done bald eagles, and so I would recommend a male. Whatever you're hunting, even if you're hunting rabbits, do a male, because they're going to be way faster, and there's nothing you're going to hunt with a white-tailed sea eagle that a male isn't going to be more advantageous with. Like if you were hunting coyotes with eagles, okay, maybe a female golden eagle is better than a male, but otherwise, same thing with golden eagles. Always get a male. Same thing, sea eagles. If you're gonna hunt, if you're in a country where you can hunt, we can't hunt bald eagles here. We can fly them and train them. We can't hunt them. But if you're gonna hunt with a bald eagle, get a male. If you're gonna hunt with a white-tailed sea eagle, get a male. No matter what you're hunting, whether it's land prey or water prey or anything.
Okay, I got a comment that you'll like, and then a question. JDL says, "Oh, by the way, I heard someone call a turkey vulture a buzzard a couple weeks ago, and I heard your words in my brain and wanted to set them straight, LMAO."
It's so fun. It's so hard not to. It's like, they're not buzzards. Yeah, it drives me crazy every time. I even corrected. I was at Mesa Verde National Park as a little kid, and me and my buddy, and we saw a bunch of turkey vultures flying around. We're like, wow, whoa, we're looking at them. And this ranger comes up to us, and he's like, "They're buzzards, boys," and goes walking off. And I'm like, and I start like walking after him. My friend Brian's like, "No, don't worry about it. He doesn't know." That was bad too, because I remember now, if anybody's been to Mesa Verde recently, let me know in the comments. They had a museum, and they had a taxidermied kestrel, and they were calling it a sparrowhawk in there. The old misnomer term, they're like, "Oh, a sparrowhawk." I'm like, it's an American kestrel. It's very important. I don't know. Things are getting so weird, you guys. It's like, I can't keep up. Like, taxonomists now are like rearranging things, and now like, okay, now an American goshawk, it used to be the northern, but now it's an American goshawk, and now it's not even an accipiter, it's a new subclade or whatever. I'm like, wait, what? No, like, a goshawk is the most accipiter of all accipiters. It is the quintessential accipiter. So if you have accipiter in the name, it should go to the anyways. So I'm still catching up with all that stuff.
I know we've been talking about kestrels, so I've got a couple of related comments and questions around them. So Mundo, he was the one from Germany, and I butchered that pronunciation of how they say kestrel in German. He's got two questions. One, he asks, "In every video from you I am watching, I wonder if this is the skull of a real saber tooth you found somewhere in Utah or whatever, still thinking it has to be a replica."
So, this headdress, I talked a little bit about it in the last video last week, but so this part of it is a cast of a saber tooth that was pulled from the La Brea tar pits in California. The antlers are real. The coyote teeth, the water buffalo teeth, they're all real. The emu feathers, the badger hide, that's all real. But I have a vast collection of skulls and bones and skeletons. I have casts. I have the real thing. Some of them you can't, like, my crocodilian skull collection is huge, but almost all of them are casts, because that way you can get something that really represents the full size of a species. There's no way on earth I'd be able to get an adult saltwater crocodile skull nowadays. So having that, but I've got Ice Age animals, and I have an entire saber-tooth skeleton cast, And I have the molds and casts. I think this is a mold and cast I did of that specimen from the La Brea tar pits. And so then you can just keep making more and more and more. So I should do some videos just showing all the bones. Anybody coming over to the house are like, oh, why are there all these bones and skeletons here? And I'm like, you haven't seen anything. But you if you're teaching, if you're just like, look, hold this, and explaining why. Like when I teach about saber-tooths, it drives me crazy. Armchair paleontologists are like, oh yeah, they killed bison. No, they didn't. Put the jaws up to the neck of a bison, they can't fit it. And worse yet, which I've done this to a taxidermy buffalo, they can't get through the fur even. The teeth of these guys perfectly match up and fit in between the neck vertebrae of a camel. Everything about them, they're camel slayers. The inside of the teeth on the originals, we've done DNA tests, and it always comes back. Their last meal was a camel. These were specialist camel killers. We don't like that because it doesn't seem cool, but that's the truth of it. So I need to do a video on that. Just set the record straight out there. This one guy, there was this video. It pissed me off so bad. Again, this paleontologist, he was so sure. He's like, yeah, they hunted bison. So he's like, what we're going to do, they took a cast and they did an aluminum cast and they measured how much bite force it would have and they made a pneumatic skull that could bite. And then they went to a buffalo farm, and when a buffalo had been killed for meat, they're like, all right, we're going to let this chomp it all over. And it couldn't bite in anywhere. It kind of got the skin a little, and the paleontologist's like, oh, so what we see is they just kind of specialize in trying to hook into the skin. It's like, you freaking idiot. No, it's like, it's okay to be wrong in science. If you're wrong, then it's like, well, let's keep figuring it out. Anyways, this is a cast. I should have just said it's a cast. I get excited.
All right, this one's in all caps, so I'll give him some attention. Sigit Welsa asks, will you fly Shikra someday?
I would do anything to fly one. I am not aware of any in the United States. I would love the opportunity to go abroad and to work with one and fly one. They're incredible. They're like a cross between a Cooper's hawk and a sharp-shinned hawk, and they seem to be so well mannered and such great hunters. And again, for all of you who do fly Shikras, you have no idea how good you have it. Our Cooper's hawks are probably the closest thing in size here in the States, and they're amazing, capable birds, but they're such jerks. They're so aggressive and violent. It seems like Shikras just train up well. I want to fly one, and if I ever have the opportunity, I will jump at it because the history behind the species and the abilities, they're such incredible birds, and I love how many people are showing their videos, flying them online. I think it's awesome for people to see just how capable they are. And again, they have a rich history, and people are still doing them today. So, love them. But I haven't flown one, and I hope to have the opportunity someday.
Let's see. So Mundo also had a second question.
Mm-hmm.
He said, is there an estimated number of people doing falconry in the United States of America? Cannot find a reliable source on the internet.
I think it used to be, I think they used to tell us it was somewhere like between 2,000 and 3,000. But I don't know where that's out today. I think there's a lot of new people coming in, but I think there's a lot of people getting out. And there's a lot of people who have a license and just sit on it and don't do anything. Like they don't have a bird and haven't for 10 years, but they just renew their license every year too. So there's not a lot of people because it's so much work to get into it here in the States, which is kind of sad because I think there's a place for a lot of usage of raptors, like wildlife education. You could have a lot of people doing wildlife education, but I mean, I've gotten into that in my videos too. It's the whole Tiger King syndrome. Watch Tiger King. If you haven't watched that series, watch Tiger King, and you can understand Tiger King is the same thing that happens with bird people, but amped up to the next level. It's the same thing. People end up attaching their egos to their birds and their identities, and then they're threatened by anybody else who doesn't have that. So if you have a bird and you feel confident, you're teaching with it, and then somebody else has a bird, you're like, oh no, they're threatening my identity. So that happens. That unfortunately happens anytime people are working with wildlife. So, but I still think it would be good if people had greater access in the States to birds of prey.
Okay, just going back into our backlog, Cameron asks, are you familiar with sandhill crane? And if so, what falconry birds could you use to hunt them?
Sandhill cranes, as long as you're going from a pitch, you could do it with any big falcon. I would target them with a jeer, just because once you're on the ground, that would be wiser. You're probably having to run over and get there. But I would say either a Peel's peregrine or a jeer falcon would be what I would do. You could do it with a real hard-hitting prairie, as long as if they're taking off and the falcon's sufficiently high to go ahead and do a neck shot. Any large falcon could, but I think really a jeer, they have that extra bit of mass, or a big female Peel's peregrine. That would be the way to go to be safe.
Okay.
Oh, I will say too, one more thing too. We have let it lie laws, and then they come and they go. So what that means is if your bird accidentally kills something, then you go, oh, okay, well, I didn't mean for that to happen, but it's the bird doing what the bird does. You let the bird crop up on it, and you have to leave the carcass there. I don't even know if that's in right now. They've given it and taken away, given it and taken away. So I have had one of my Peel's peregrines years ago accidentally take down a great blue heron. And even though that is smaller than a sandhill crane, it's fairly comparable. And she just, I went to flush up ducks, and she banked over and saw this great blue heron and flapping away slower and hit the neck, took it out, ran over, and it was pretty wild. So again, I think a Peel's or a jeer would be it.
Okay. All right. And these are a couple of comments on the shikras that you talked about. The one who asked the question said, thank you for answering. Shikra are similar to Cooper's hawk at the aggressiveness, but they have smaller size at the body. They look easier to train, but it's tricky. And then Umar says, we in Uzbekistan have abundance of shikras, but they are very underestimated here. What a shame. Until you said, I think that way as well. I would ship one of them to you when I had the chance.
Oh, I would love that. I wish there was a way, because they're incredible. I think any accipiter, and again, I have to use that term loosely now because some accipiters are now classified under some other term. I don't know what it is, but accipiters, for all intents and purposes, accipiters are they're intense birds, but they're high yield. They will hunt for you all day. They'll be incredible birds, but you just have to put a ton of work with them. So, and it sounds like shikras are the same way. So I think that's pretty cool. Cooper's hawk's my favorite bird to fly, but I usually never fly them unless they're the only bird I'm flying.
Okay, I've got two that I can kind of combine together. So Back 40 Outdoors asks, do you have any advice or books you'd recommend for an apprentice? And Hunter's Call asks, do you know of the falconer Titus Plomeritus?
I don't know Titus. And what would be the best falconry books? Again, really honestly, currently I would say the Apprentice Study Guide and the Apprentice Manual put out by the California Hawking Club. And of course, this is the trapping book. I wrote it because there wasn't a book on trapping, so I wrote the book that needed to be written. So if you want to trap a bird, go to Western Sporting and you could get trapping essentials. They have a good RedTailed Hawk book too, as well, on trapping essentials. Western Sporting. I can't remember what that one's called. I don't remember. But there's that one's kind of good about the basics of a red tail. And Matt Molinix's book. God, I can't talk today. Matt Molinix's book on training American kestrels. I don't remember what that's called too, but any falconry book. You could go to Western Sporting, you could go to Mike's Falconry Supplies. They both should have that Kestrel book, I believe, and that's a really good book too. But those are kind of the basics. We used to do like North American Falconry and Hunting Hawks, which is this massive thing. I've got it over there. It's the double blue right there. But if you get the California Hawking Club Apprentice Study Guide and Apprentice Manual, those would be good to just get you going. to give you all the basics. They did a good job.
Okay, I think this one got buried. It was Co-TW Superfan asked, so what birds would you recommend hunting with kestrels?
In America, European starlings and house sparrows. Those are kind of the two main ones. They're available, they're legal, they cause damage to native species and to property, so usually people are pretty happy that you'll jump in and take care of them, which is funny because like you go over in Europe and European starlings, like we're going to watch the murmuration of starlings fly and flock at sunset. It's so beautiful, and it is beautiful. But here people are like, oh, starlings. Starlings are a type of myna. And you're probably aware starlings can talk. They can learn all kinds of sound effects and mimic things beautifully. After World War II, in England, they kept mimicking the sound of bombs dropping and the sounds of the sirens for bombing. And people were like, ah! People were all shell-shocked. It's like, oh, it's just a dumb bird, just mimicking that. So starlings are incredible birds, but, you know, they also have been brought here to America and have caused huge problems. So I think starlings, hunting a starling with a kestrel is like hunting a sage grouse with a gyrfalcon. It's a big bird for it to take down, and it's very impressive. So that's my recommendation.
Well, they responded, good, because there are a whole bunch of them in my area. Let's see, all right, and then follow-up comments on kestrels. In Uzbekistan, people only see kestrels as beginner birds to learn basics, but nobody hunts with them in my country, only for free flights and weight management.
And that's kind of the same mentality with, and maybe this is still the same thing, but I know like in England in medieval times, and probably still now, the idea was, oh, get a lanner falcon to learn weight management and free flight and fly into the lure, and then graduate and get a peregrine. Same kind of thinking. But again, any bird, if it hunts in the wild, then it can hunt. And you can push it and train it to do things that it wouldn't otherwise know it's capable of doing. So even if kestrels are kind of viewed as sort of frumpy and kind of just a beginner's bird, you absolutely can still get them up and going. It just takes extra work. They're not as gamey as something like a Merlin or a bigger falcon, but you can still hunt them. You can still do great with them. I miss them. We can't. Yeah, I don't know anybody breeding your Asian kestrels here. I did, and I've had several, and I loved them, and I hunted them, and they were cool birds. Everybody in the world thinks American kestrels are so cool because American kestrels are so distinct and vibrant, and they're so angry looking. But they're little, and we're like, oh, I would love a Eurasian kestrel. That'd be pretty cool. But it's like, you always want what you don't have. I want a harpy eagle.
So Superfan follows up asking, also, do you think you could hunt squirrels with kestrels?
No. I would never risk that. I've seen them in the wild catch adult rats. I watched a male kestrel in the winter. It was really bitter cold. Catch an adult rat, but the risk is so big. I would never do it. I think they'd balk at doing it. Something like a chipmunk size they might go after, but I think that'd be too risky because they could turn around and just bite their toes and do some real harm on something with toes that small. So I don't think they'd go after a squirrel. Again, you can train anything to go after anything. You can train a goshawk to chase a garbage truck if you want, but I think it would be too risky to go after squirrels with them.
Umar also kind of asked, Eastern kestrels potentially are not as good at falconry birds as an American kestrel?
Correct. Yeah, Old World kestrels are a lot bigger, but New World kestrels are much more aggressive, tenacious. They're far more aggressive hunters, far more willing to pursue. They both can hover. They're both pretty dumpy in the wild. They'll both default to the easiest way of doing things. But yeah, American kestrels are way gamier and way more likely to pursue actively than any old world kestrel species. Now, we don't even know where they came from. We call them American kestrels, but DNA results seem to indicate that they're from a totally different line, and in fact seem to indicate that they might be more closely related to peregrine falcons, which I'm like, that's from one study. That seems really weird just because of the enormous size difference. But there's more DNA work that needs to be done, but American kestrels are kind of their own thing. They look like a bit like old world kestrels, but they're not. They're not closely related. I always wanted to do a hybrid of one, and I talked to another falconer who had tried for years and never had any luck, just because they're so genetically different.
Okay, I got a question here from Hunter's Call. I'm not sure if you can answer this, but what is the likelihood of someone being able to use their experience as a falconer to work at a zoo without any higher education?
I think it's way better. I think bookwork. I have decades of experience with raptors, and that goes much farther than bookwork. And I think working in a zoo, if you're saying like, hey, yeah, I have been working with raptors in all these ways, I think that hands-on stuff goes really far. Some zoos are kind of full of themselves, but I think it goes far. And I think firsthand experience with weight management and health and treatments and handling your own bird, I mean, it's infinitely better than, like, think about it. If you had all this book work from some degree in zoology or something, that's nothing. If you have somebody with some fancy bookwork degree in zoology, and you're like, here's a red-tailed hawk, they wouldn't even know how to hold it. They'd be like, they wouldn't even know that stuff. So I think hands-on is really the best teacher, and I think it's good having a good mentor. So yeah, I think it absolutely should count towards something far above and beyond just a degree in it.
So I've got a couple of comments and question from Mundo. He said that on my way to work there is an old world kestrel almost every 300 meters sitting on a street sign just chilling.
That's how it used to be in Utah. We've seen less and less. We don't know why.
He did raise a concern that drones can hurt the birds. Don't do that. And let's see, they also said, I am thinking about getting a female Harris hawk, but on the journey of pros and cons, I asked myself if she can handle the big hares we have around here. They are 6 to 10 pounds. Golden eagle would not fit.
Yeah, I think Harris hawks, they know that you're going to come in and help, because in the wild they understand that, hey, my pack is behind me, so as long as I catch something and move up quickly to the head or neck, then the rest of my pack is going to rush in and help. So I think you do great on any hare with we got white-tailed jackrabbits going to be up to like 12 pounds. It's pretty big. White-tailed jackrabbits get huge, and they'll still take them. So you just got to rush in quick and let them know that you're always there and you're always going to back them up, and then they'll just act accordingly, and they'll go recklessly after a hare and bring it down, and then you just rush in and help them.
So I have a 78 Eagle Boy. I believe this was the answer that Mundo gave us. What do you think about lure training using a drone?
Yeah, so what I've done, when I've done lure training, I've only done it for falcons. And I know there's a lot of new training where it's more like an airplane and you have the falcon chase. I know in the Middle East they're pioneering a lot of that. My style's been really easy, where you've got, 40 feet of line. If you go on my channel, I got a video showing this. And then you've got like a tube and a release with the lure. And so you have them go up, and they grab it, and they know to come right back down to the ground. And the drone is so far away from them, and they really quickly learn, hey, this drone is just an object. And then they'll even start to learn, hey, oh yeah, if I hear the going up while I'm still hooded, they know, hey, it's time to go up there. So the biggest thing is just keep the drone very far away from the lure itself. So if it's at least 40 feet down, then the bird's just going to grab the lure, pops out, and it carries it to the ground, and then you go have the drone land elsewhere.
Okay, so I got a couple of comments, and then I hopefully will lead into a question. So Sigit says, they are underestimated shikra, maybe because they are so much and not too easy to train. In Pakistan, they are considered shikra as the beginner bird. I don't know why, maybe it has so many troubles. So if the beginner jumps to other birds, it will be easier because they are already done with the shikra. And in Asia, shikra are very popular, but it's like an achievement for them when they are successful with the shikra. They prefer to train other birds lots of easier.
I think sometimes countries will naturally think of a first bird based off of availability. Like in Utah, in the United States, for years it was like an apprentice had to start off with either a Kestrel or a Redtail. It's because, like, well, they're very available and they're fairly easy to train. But it's like, how easy is it to train a Kestrel to get up and going and hunting quarry? It's like, it'll be way easier to train something like a Harris Hawk. So, and some people would say, yeah, unless you're using a gram scale, the scale that weighs in grams, what are you doing flying a Kestrel? So I think there's a lot of traditions that maybe were not well thought out. So maybe shikra isn't the best first bird. Maybe it is. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Once they started to allow apprentices to have Harris Hawks in America, then some of the old timers were like, well, that's no good because you got to learn with a harder bird before you get an easier bird. And that was their attitude. They're like, getting a red-tail to hunt rabbits is a lot harder than getting Harris Hawk to hunt rabbits. But the other people were like, well, why not? Why not? If it's an easier bird, why not have them start with an easier bird and then work up to a harder one? So different thoughts on that.
So Harold asks, what do you think about falcon racing that's become popular in the Middle East and some parts of Europe?
I think it's a cool thing. I have mixed feelings on it. Falconry is first and foremost a hunting sport, but I think, you know, you're flying a bird, you're still keeping him in great shape, and it's a way to do it in a spectator way that can get a lot of people together and seeing it. So in that sense, I'm in favor of it because, again, I think falconry is kind of dying away in a lot of parts of the world, and if that's a way to revitalize interest, and you're doing all the bird doesn't know it's not hunting. It thinks it's hunting that thing being pulled behind that little plane. So in that sense, I think it's pretty cool. It would be cool to get something like that going in America for people to see. But at the same time, I would hate if that led to people being like, oh, falconry where you're hunting is wrong and we should outlaw it, because no, falconry first and foremost is letting a bird do what it does in the wild, is letting it hunt. So I'm in favor of it. I just think we ought to be cautious to make sure that that doesn't evolve into people banning us being allowed to hunt with raptors.
So I don't know if this is related to anything, but the person that asked that question, Harold, he also said earlier trash hawking with a smiley face, and that made me laugh. I'm not sure what that is, but it made me laugh. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, where did you go? Cameron asks, are there any other birds that hunt like Harris hawks? Is it known what species are closely related to Harris's hawk?
So we don't. There's a lot of species that will hunt as a pair. There's a lot of falcon species that'll do that. There's a lot of hawks. They'll do the eagles. Definitely do. Eagles will definitely pair up and hunt together in different ways. Some very elaborately, like New Zealand falcons, very elaborately will. But it's a pair. It's not as a true pack. I am convinced that the taxon Buteo gallus, which is like a common black hawk, a great black hawk, a savanna hawk, black solitary eagle, montane solitary eagle, crown solitary eagle, all of those, I am convinced that Harris hawks branched off from that line kind of as early as Kestrels branched off from all the other big falcons. I have not been able to do genetic studies on that, but I'm convinced of that for a number of reasons that I've looked into depth on. But there is a hawk that they are closely related to. There's a couple of them, and I can't remember what they're called. They're kind of obscure, weird jungle hawks. I don't remember them off the top of the head. But it's like, okay, I could see that. Have you done DNA tests? I don't know. But I know that those species that they're closely related to are not pack hunters. So it's kind of an anomaly that Harris hawks developed it in such a way. And we generally see that the more that it is difficult to get food, the more Harris hawks are prone to hunt in a pack. So when you get down into the tropics, it's not so much. But if you're in the deserts of Arizona, they're way more keyed in. But again, what is a pack? Well, if Harris hawks are going to have 4, 5, 6 babies in a clutch, perhaps, and you raise all those babies and they're all hunting together with mom or dad, I mean, you now have a pack with just one clutch. So, we don't know exactly how it all works, but Harris hawks do seem to be the only ones that really, truly pack hunt. Long-winded answer.
We've got a couple of people saying hi. One a little bit ago that's from Facundo Benilli. Says, sorry to be late, but happy to be here. Greetings from Patagonia. Love the video about eagle buzzards.
Happy to have you here.
And then Wing Shooter Bird Dot asks, what's your thoughts on a Harris hawk on a black-tailed jackrabbit in Texas?
Oh yeah, it's a great combination. They absolutely can do it. Do a female. If you're just doing one, do a female. But yeah, they absolutely can take down a black-tailed jack. That's I had my first Harris was so small that it was a female, 100% female. But most other Harris hawkers were like, "Oh, that's a big male." I'm like, "No, it's a female. She even laid eggs." Oh, and she had no problem on big black-tailed jackrabbits. So, yeah, highly recommend. I think they're good at it.
Cameron said, long-winded answers are the best answers.
Long-winded answers are the best answers. They're fun.
All right, we have Felipe Ramirez who says, I am molting a red-tailed hawk. I had a great season, so I decided to fly him another season. I always have free lofted, but this bird keeps jumping, or better, frying up. My muse is completely smooth inside, not sure what he is trying to do, but some feathers are getting ruined. Should I tether him?
I would. If it depends on where your perches are. Look at where he's jumping up or she's jumping up and bouncing from. I would probably tether her. They get really agitated. I would also recommend, if you can, feed outside of the mew. So get the bird, bring him out, and have food already somewhere. And so he hops from you to the food so that the bird doesn't develop food aggression. That would be what I'd recommend. But yeah, take a look at where you might be able to, just by changing the position of where any perches are in the mew, that can make a big difference of any feathers getting nicked. But if it still keeps happening, I would try tethering the bird for the summer, just to play it safe.
Comment on Harris's. Harris is my dream bird, but I do think it would be good for me to fly a red tail or something first. I worry that it'd be missed learning opportunities if I started with an easy bird.
Yeah, I think you're sort of earning it. If you fly a red tail first, I feel like you're earning the ease that a Harris hawk is. And then it teaches you a whole lot of new things that you won't otherwise learn. So yeah, I agree with that. I think that makes sense.
We got a question from Jason Draper who asks, Heya, I've wondered how you keep birds in peak hunting condition when we have some pretty truncated seasons and bag limits that mean quarry species aren't constantly encountered.
So it just kind of depends on your personal area. Really, you got to be creative, and it depends on the bird. Some birds, like a Harris hawk, you can just go for a walk. You just go walk down the road and have your Harris hawk follow you along and keep its muscles in good shape. For something like a falcon, if you don't have good opportunities to hunt, then stooping them to a lure is a good way. I did that with a Harris. I trained a Harris hawk to stoop a lure like a falcon. It was wild to see. But yeah, there's a lot you can do. Got a friend here in town. If you look through my videos, I did a video about using like the it's like a robot lure. It's like they use it for dog coursing, and it just zips it in, and you just have the hawk run across it and chase it and do that several times. So there's a lot of different ways to keep bird in shape without hunting if you need to. Same thing, getting a falcon to go up to a lure on a drone. You can just have them go up, and that gives them a huge workout. And if you do that, during the week, and then on the weekend go out and hunt, then you can do that. So you just got to be kind of creative.
Let's see. We had someone who asked, do you know Titus, the night hunting doctor? But I believe you already answered that and said you don't know Titus.
I don't.
Okay. We have a question from Remy Ogun, who asks, striated caracaras don't really pack hunt, do they?
Okay, now I'm getting them mixed up. Okay, the ones down the ones down at Patagonia, they kind of do actually, and so that actually refutes what we were saying earlier with Harris's. That's a good point. So if you're new to all this, so caracaras, and some people say it's caracara. I'm always going to say caracara because that's what I've heard. Other people have told me otherwise, but I don't care. I'm old. Okay, so caracaras they're related to falcons, but they build nests, which falcons do not do. So they're weird and they're really cool. All of them are really cool. I'm trying to remember. Again, I'm having brain issues from the stroke. So the ones down in Patagonia, they basically kind of do hunt in a pack, but it is more akin to how ravens will hunt as a group. But it's kind of like if you cross how Harris hawks hunt and how those, and I think that is striated. I think it is. I think they call them Johnny Rooks down there. Really cool birds. Crested caracaras are the ones we have up here. We had a crested caracara in Utah like a month ago. In Utah, and I didn't go out and look for it, and I should have. Caracaras are such cool birds. I promise I will have videos on them in the coming months. I'm so backlogged. But again, if you don't know the story, that's the one I was thinking of. Yep, that's the one. Yep. Okay, my moderator's looking up. Yep, striated caracaras do hunt in a form of pack, but again, it's like a cross between what Harris hawks do and what ravens do. It's kind of like a cross. So yeah, good catch on that. I had a crested caracara lined up. It was out of a rehab situation. It was an imprint that would need a home. It was a baby that was just recently fledged, and Utah requires that you have to get a health certificate from the state of origin. And so they took it to the vets, and the vet techs were just holding it like, ooh, getting selfies holding this bird. Look, wow, I'm holding this bird. And the bird bolted, took off, flew into a window, and broke its neck. And it was like my one chance to ever work with it. I mean, if I ever could get a captive bred one here in the States, that'd be great. But they didn't even apologize. They just informed us, well, it died. It ran into a window. It's like, but yeah. So, a little off topic, but yeah, caracaras are very cool. Some of them are kind of weird looking, but yeah, striated caracaras, I have seen, not in America, but I've seen a lot of them in bird shows. Old world countries have bred a lot of them. And the crested caracaras here are really cool. That's kind of the eagle of Mexico it's on all the money, and it's on the story of the origins of the Aztecs and all that. So that's a crested caracara. Cool birds, really cool birds.
Well, we got a couple comments about caracaras. Felipa says, I'm originally from Colombia and have experience with neotropical birds. Caracaras there definitely hunt in packs. Harris's don't.
That's cool. That is cool.
Hawk Eagle says, I had a caracara for 6 years, took him to the 1974 California Hawking Club, where I met Mike Connolly.
That is awesome. That's so cool. Used to be easier to get birds, man. Like I see, I'm working on a super video with my list of the 20th or 21 most epic eagle species according to Ben Woodruff. But it's a big work in progress. But we used to think of it as a harp eagle. I cannot think. The New World eagle, the Guyana crested eagle. The Guyana crested eagle, it seemed like in the 70s, a lot of people had access to them. And I see a lot of those in old shows from that era. And you can't get them at all now. Those, that'd be so cool. Such cool birds. Wish I could work with all of them.
We have a question from McFly, who says, do you have any thoughts on trying to convert an old chicken coop into a mews? Biggest worries are residual disease even after deep cleaning and the raised concrete perch in the middle. I only ask because it's cinder block and concrete.
Yeah, if it's cinder block and concrete, you just want to bleach the crap out of it and just make sure, because there's a lot of respiratory diseases that could be got. But yeah, if you spray the crap out of it, clean it, redo the inside, bleach the walls, just get it really, really clean. If you got a good concrete foundation, I think you can do it. But just go overboard on cleaning it, and then I think you could build from there.
Oh, I got a fun fact for you. Facundo says, here in Patagonia, we call caracaras caranchos.
Caranchos? I love it. I love it. Ah, that would be so cool to just see them. Just going around doing their thing, hunting, and just tearing stuff apart. It'd be so cool. Caranchos. I love it.
Yeah. Mundo also added, in Close by Birds of Prey flight show, there is a caracara who's pretty much more a dog than a bird, I'd say, clowning too.
They're so fun.
I believe we're caught up on questions in a moment. If you have a question in there, I have missed it, and you're more than welcome to ask it again.
Okay, I'm going to go get a drink of water really quick and put some eye drops in my eyes. I'll be right back. And if you guys want to keep asking questions, and we will have them up. Crikey, have a go at this.
Alright. Gotten some really nice comments. Mundo says, this is by far one of the best interactive live streams I've ever watched. So nice,
Sweet.
And gentle, and calm and honest. Crazy that we are not 30,000.
It's all good. Hey, it's just nice getting people to get, like, it's amazing. You guys, we're making a world that's so alone. Like, people feel so isolated. Birds of Prey unite everybody. Falconry and Birds of Prey, like, it doesn't matter who you are in the world. We get it. You look at ancient pictures and murals and tapestries of falconry scenes from like 1,000 years ago. You're like, yeah, I know exactly what that guy's thinking. It's so cool. And so even though I kind of rail against the modern age, how cool is it that we're talking to falconers around the world right now. Around the world. Like, that's so cool. Real time. It's not like, well, this message will be delivered in 4 days. It's like, this is cool. This is really cool. So I really appreciate you guys being on here and participating. I'm still learning this. I mean, look, I'm sitting here holding my mic. I mean, you know, we're still learning the technology here, but I think this is a lot of fun. So I enjoy doing this.
Follow up to that, McFly asked, do you all have plans to make live streams like this a regular occurrence?
I do indeed. I don't know what's the parameters for how often, if we do it like every other week or once a month, or, you know, I don't know. You guys let me know how often you'd like it. It seems like, again, right now I'm technically running 4 YouTube channels. I got this one, I got Desert Lore, I got Ben's Wildlife, and then the Hutchings Museum. You can look them up, the Hutchings Museum. Not Hutchings Museum Institute, that's a different thing. But if you look up the Hutchings Museum, we're putting educational videos on there too. So I'm doing that as well. So it's keeping me pretty busy. So I feel like doing a live stream every week might be too much right now if people wanted that. But I feel like every other week we could do it in theory. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Like, how often do you want this? I think this is fun. I think this is really cool. And I want to have birds here too. Like, I want to get this set up to where I can bring in different birds and have them, because like it's fun being me, but it's like way cooler having a bird here, just like perching here. So we'll get that worked out to be able to have a bird perching and interacting.
We have a question from Remy. Hey Ben, had a question about the recent accipiter reclassifications. Any thoughts on sharp-shinned hawks having the same blood red eyes as Coopers and American goshawks?
So, as I understood it, before they did all that reclassification, as I understood the genetics, what it really seemed like was that Cooper's hawks came to the New World first as a form of as a proto-goshawk, some early version of goshawk, and they started to branch out and do their thing. And then later on, Old World goshawks came over, which, again, would have originally been Coopers, or who knows what Coopers would have been originally. And they started coming, and that sharp-shinned hawks came in last, and that they came genetically from Eurasian sparrowhawks, which I can see. When I look at them, I'm like, okay, I can see that. That's what the genetics seem to show. But we're always finding out new things. I talked to some falconers recently who told me and showed me some private photos confirming that there are the albidus goshawks, the white Siberian goshawks, in North America, nesting in North America. And it's going off the radar, and they're trying to keep it that way because they don't want a bunch of biologists like messing with them. And it's like, you never know. Birds move and adapt, but yeah, it seems weird because Cooper's hawks look so much like sharp-shinned hawks. But again, take a Cooper's hawk, take a photo, make it black and white, and you'll be like, oh yeah, it's just a goss. It's just convergent evolution. It seems to be according to the genetics.
We've got a question from Alexandra, who asks, I have a question. How do you deal with having pets while being a falconer? How do you keep your pets safe?
It can totally run the gamut. I've got cats here, and I normally, if I have the birds in the house, then I'm just holding them and making sure the cats know. My friend John Griggs, he raised his kittens by his birds of prey so that they knew. Like, he raised kittens and like a Cooper's hawk together, and they just were like, it's just like kind of like nest mates. So basically, it's just constant vigilance, just making sure. You know, some dogs are going to be more aggressive if they're just a pet, and parrots that can really stress them out. So it's kind of more of a case-by-case basis. You just have to really follow what the needs are. But a lot of times animals can be surprisingly tolerant of each other. Even among raptors, it was interesting. I remember one time in my yard, I had all blocked out. This is a summer day. And I had a turkey vulture, a golden eagle, a peregrine falcon, a ferruginous hawk that I was working with for a rehabber, a red-tailed hawk, a goshawk, and I think a prairie falcon. They were all out. They were all blocked apart from each other. And every time the golden eagle would bait to the end of its leash, all of the other birds, I had a great horned owl too, all of the birds, including the great horned owl, would start baiting towards the eagle as though to attack it. It's like you're trying to show malice because you know that eagle's tied up, and you're tied up too, but you're like, nah, nah. But it's like, you wouldn't actually do that if you guys were not all tethered. So even then, they had a sense of knowledge, of understanding of like, oh, I'm on a leash. So, yeah. So, but most animals can learn. You just got to be careful.
A relative, McFly, asks, I actually just had a thought a day or so ago. Has anyone tried to raise a raptor and a crow and or raven in close proximity?
I've raised a raven and a prairie falcon and a ferruginous hawk together. I got a picture of it somewhere. You've seen that one, right? With all its babies. I raised them all together. And they reached a point where because there was an age difference, and they reached a point where the prairie falcon started trying to jump up and down on the raven, and the raven was like, rah, rah, what's going on? So I'm like, okay, got to separate them now. But yeah, they surprisingly, you can sometimes, you got to be careful. But I think a lot of breeders, a lot of raptor propagators will routinely, they were like, I've got 30 baby falcons, so they just have, these are the bin that they're all in at this age, and these are all in the bin at this age. Put a little tiny dot of paint on the down feathers of each one so you know which clutch they came from and stuff, and they'll just raise them together, no problem, to a certain age, and then you separate them out. So yeah, they absolutely can be raised together to a point.
All right, I have Eating for a Living asks, what's the hardest bird you ever trained?
Well, it's between a gyrfalcon and a Cooper's hawk. Cooper's hawk is the easiest and hardest bird to train at the same time. It's like training a Cooper's hawk in a way that is effective, and you're doing it right, and you're managing and channeling the aggression properly towards quarry rather than you. It's tricky. But I think the hardest bird to train properly is a gyrfalcon. If you're going to fly a gyrfalcon in the traditional sense, going up and waiting on, especially a female, the males are way better, but I'm a sucker for the females. I love the ladies, so I gotta fly a female. It's like if you're gonna fly a gyrfalcon, it's like it's the biggest falcon on earth. You gotta do a female, and it's like if you're gonna fly a pygmy owl. It's like or like an elf owl. If you're going to fly the smallest owl on earth, get a male, because you're like accentuating the fact that it's not. I always hate doing an educational presentation and having to be like, oh, this is a male great horned owl. This is the biggest owl in the United States. But this one's smaller. They'd be significantly bigger if it was a female. I always hate that, which shouldn't matter in falconry. But yeah, I consider properly flying a female gyrfalcon consistently on quarry is, I think that's the hardest. It's not that hard, but it's hard. It's just, if you had all the time in the world, you could still, but they're still going to test you. Well, maybe let me phrase this a different way. I'm most proud of consistently hunting with a female gyr. And some female gyrs are great, but most of them are not. Hunting off the fist, catching birds off the fist with a golden eagle, that was hard, and that's something I'm very proud of. Like geese, at a golf course, sneaking around the corner, male golden eagle, getting them. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I think accipiters are going to challenge you the most. Falcons will challenge you, but it's just you lose them. Like, oh, they went up and over the mountain. Okay, I got to go track them down, and that's not as difficult as a goshawk grabbing your face or something. So, but yeah, accipiters are going to test you the most. Falcons are going to frustrate you the most. And a big female gyr, I think, is one of the hardest birds to properly train to consistently hunt game.
Remy asks, is there a great difference between the flight capabilities between male and female gyrs?
Yes, always go with a male gyr. Male gyrs are much more agreeable. They're better to work with, and for anything you're going to reasonably hunt, they're perfect. And if you want to hunt with a gyr and you're about the hunting, get a male gyr peregrine instead, because it'll have some peregrine in it. It's going to be more sensible. It'll be more loyal. But if you're like me and you're like, I've got to, the essence of the flying the jeer, then you're going to do better doing a male. And again, even if you're hunting prey as big as sage grouse, sage grouse and ducks and pheasants and all kinds of things like that, get a male, and you're going to have a better time, and they're very capable. I just like the females. I like the challenge. I've been doing this so long, it's kind of like I need to be kind of tested. I need something that'll push me. And the female jeer falcons make me want to rip my hair out, but it's a jeer. I just love them.
Eating for a Living asks, what's the biggest game you ever took with your birds?
Coyotes. My smallest male golden eagle, Rage, caught coyotes by accident 3 times. And I think that I've caught geese. Yeah, I think coyotes way more than geese. I mean, a goose has got a bigger span, Canadian geese and some domestic geese. But yeah, geese, white-tailed jackrabbits, and coyotes 3 times. That's the biggest score I've taken that I can remember. Well, no, I had a goshawk that caught a deer. It was so freaking fun. Again, I didn't dispatch it, but it's like this goshawk kept attacking cattle. He'll be out like, it's going after a rabbit, and then banks off, boom, and it grabs the cow. And it's like, it's just all mad. And so then I flushed a rabbit, and the goshawk goes up, and I see this big old huge mule deer buck, doing, 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 and it bounces away from me, and it stops, and it turns, and it's looking directly at me. These big old antlers up there, and my goshawk is flying straight towards it. There's no way it didn't see it. It just didn't think that a goshawk would go after it. And it's just like, I'm watching this human, I'm watching this human, I'm watching this human. Ah! And grabbed the deer's butt, and I swear that deer jumped 10 feet in the air, just flipped out. But it wasn't a kill. So I had a goshawk that would routinely attack cattle and once caught a deer and held on to it, but I didn't take it down. So a fair kill would be white-tailed jackrabbits, some geese, and 3 coyotes. Those coyotes were they're like, they were just, and that's where good training comes down. Watch my videos on, I don't even know what it's on. I don't know if it's specifically with the eagles or, I don't know, I made too many stinking videos. But basically, if you have an aggressive bird, train them to a lure, and when they're on the kill, you chuck the lure to the side. And with eagles, I eventually get to the point where I just have a big old hunk of meat. In the field, I usually use big old strips of beef heart for a tidbit, and it's like, because that'll go right through them. It's not gonna throw off the hunt. So it's like, if they're on something, I'm like, hey here, and I chuck it 10 feet away. They, and then you grab whatever they've caught, put it in your game bag. It'll save you. It'll save you for getting grabbed. But that's what I did with the coyotes. The coyotes are, and it's like the eagle's like attacking it. It's like, I got to get out of the situation. I wasn't prepared for this. Take that big hunk of meat, chuck it. Eagle lets go of the coyote, and the coyote goes running off, freaking out. Poor things. Teach them to watch their eyes on the skies.
We've got Facundo asking, what is a good tracker for a bird that is economic and easily available? I cannot find anything where I live.
I don't know anymore. I've used Marshall for years. I tried a lot of other things. Merlin systems, I know, always offered kind of something a little cheaper and more manageable, but I think they might not be around anymore. I'm not sure. You could look up Merlin systems, but I've just used Marshall for so long now, because I lost 2 birds with other transmitter companies where if you were going from extreme heat to extreme cold or vice versa, it would screw up. And Marshall is built in with their radio transmitters. They have a thing that overrides that. And now with the GPS is just so nice, but it's expensive. It is expensive. So I would go online, see if you can find any old Merlin systems. There's a lot of people selling their radio transmitters now online, used for dirt cheap, because so many people are either getting out of it or they're upgrading to GPS. So I get some radio telemetry and I just try online. Yeah, Merlin systems always seem pretty cheap. They seem pretty cool. And it was cut and dry. You like shove the batteries in the side and wrap a little bit of electrical tape around it. It was kind of cool.
I have EH94 asks, what is your proudest moment as a falconer?
Let's see. I think, I mean, I'd really have to think about it, but I remember trapping my first redtail, and I'd had some other birds before that. I'd had some kestrels and some stuff that I had, some babies and things back in the day when the laws were looser and weird. But my first redtail that I properly trapped, I tried for a whole year with no luck. I tried everything. I made every mistake, which is why I wrote the book, because I'm like, I don't want people to have to make the same mistakes I did. So that's why I wrote that book. But I think it's kind of embarrassing to say, but when I caught my first redtail and I held it up, then I remember there's this line from there's this Native American Legends show called Dreamkeeper, and there's this one part and the narrator's like, he could hardly believe the warrior deed he had just accomplished. And that popped into my head when I was holding up this redtail. Like, here is this wild bird. And I'm like, dude, it's not a warrior deed. You caught a hawk. But it's so magical to be like, you've done all the learning and the research, and you failed and failed and failed and failed at trapping, and you finally got it right. You got your bait right. You got your trap right. You got your nooses right. You got your setup right. And here's this wild creature, this wild hunter, and now it's in your hands. You two are connected. You've converged paths. And I remember just that was a very magical moment. I've had a lot of proud moments of just like telemetry chases that ended up like I had a gyr falcon that was everybody's falcons were getting eaten by golden eagles that year, and bald eagles kept harassing my gyr. And she was chasing a goose, and she was closing in on this bald eagle, starts loping after her, and she's like, and it kept after her. It was a male, and it kept after her, and I'm like, no, and I'm like, no, use your head, bird. And she like, and it's right at sunset, and she's like, oh, I know, I'm gonna lose this sucker in the neighborhood. Went down in the neighborhood and was diving in and out of, and this eagle was chasing. This eagle was trying to eat her, And finally she made it down, and she was like hiding on the ground, and I'm like, good thinking. And I was just proud that she knew that I would come find her eventually. And that doesn't sound super proud, but here one more that's kind of funny. My first Harris hawk, she chased a pheasant into this big old huge bush, and I went around one side, and she started going in the other side. And this pheasant was in between us and was looking, and the pheasant, she's and I'm crawling in, and she's like, I'll take my odds with the dude. And and the pheasant ran over to me, and I caught it in my hands. And so I get out, and my Harris hawk goes, and she's squawking at me. She lands on my shoulders, lands on my head, squawks. She's like, come on, I got this. So again, I took a piece of meat, chucked it aside, gave it to her, and I released the pheasant later on. It didn't seem very sporting-like to take it out after that, but that was kind of cool working as a team for the first time like that.
I have someone here listed as Falcon's Ledge. They said, don't forget the telemetry chase in Cedar Fort when we had to go up on the mountains on both sides of the valley to find your parachute.
That was horrific, man. That was because that's radio telemetry, not GPS. That was rough, like going up and then down, and then you're like, okay, just the top of this ridge, beep 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 beep. Then you get a beep, and you're like, you keep going up and down. And it was like rainy, sleety, snowy. That was rough. But yeah, got her back. That was a rough time. That took some work.
Oh, and and she ended up being next to a road, so there was no line of sight.
Yep. Crazy times, crazy memories.
I've got a question from Hivesci, who asks, are you familiar with the Tong child fossil?
I am not. I'm not. Have to look it up.
I have someone named Scott Hutch who asked Ben, I'm working with an imprint auger buzzard. She is quite aggressive only towards women and goes straight for the face. Can I ever reduce this behavior enough to fly her safely around a crowd?
That's tricky. I mean, have to know more of her history. A lot of times female birds get really broody during the breeding season. I got a red tail like that right now, and she gets really violent. And part of it can be a misperception, but for a lot of raptors, especially with buzzards and eagles, like true eagles, is part of the courtship is chasing. It's like, I'm going to pursue you aggressively, and then you're supposed to provide food for me. And one of my eagles she'd lay eggs every year, and I'd go in, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to set up this mute to where she can chase me around 3 or 4 times, and then I give her food, and she feels good. And I know there can be mew aggression. This is different, because she was a gem all the rest of the year. Come up and feed her by hand, and she was so gentle, but she's super broody. So broodiness can be an issue where they just key in on that. Always err on the side of caution. I would just try really hard to redirect the aggression towards something specific. Like, say, I'm only going to have this bird ever fly away from people to a lure. So there's no human, there's no male, no female, there's no human. It's just like, hey, you come out and you go from a person to a lure. Maybe have the lure on a line that you pull, something like that. Try to do that for a while and just see if you can redirect the aggression. And that's probably your only way you can reset it. Otherwise, might just have to be a fist bird, because that can be so risky during a show. I remember the Hogle Zoo show, which was incredible. Steve Shingren and it was Steve Shingren's show, and Nick Harris helped pioneer it and helped run it. And Nick Harris and Steve Shingren are two of the most incredible falconers you ever meet, and know their stuff. But, I mean, there's some of the times where some of the birds, it's like, this bird developed an aggression issue. Let's kind of... It's kind of scary. It's scary when you see that bird take off and everybody's like, wow, I've got a hawk flying right over my head. And you're like, but it attacked me yesterday. It's scary. So, you got to be careful. You got to be really careful. But try to redirect the aggression towards something else that is the only thing that you hold the bird without food, and nobody's ever holding the bird with food whatsoever, and you're specifically having it fly from you to a perch where the food already is, or to a lure where the food already is, and see if that'll work. That'd be the best starting point.
It looks like we did drop a bunch of frames. I've been watching them. They crashed for some people. If you're on a computer, refresh. If you're on mobile, close out, reopen it. We're still streaming. We're still going.
We're still going.
I have someone named Glass Owlie who asks, how is Pepper doing?
Trying to remember. I don't have Pepper anymore. Pepper's doing good. I don't remember, because so many... I'm trying to remember. I think Pepper went to a falconry, in California. That's again. Remember, I've lost so many stinking memories because of the stupid cardiac arrest and the strokes. I think Pepper went. I don't remember, but I think she got a new home in California, where she was doing really good. That's my memory. I don't remember. I remember because around the time that I got the Tida Falcon, Rahara, I think was the time that I rehomed Pepper. But I don't 100% remember. So she was doing good. And I remember the home that I remember she went off to was a good setup. But I don't remember the details because I lost it because of the stroke, unfortunately.
We have a question from Remy. Is the Hens goshawk of Madagascar larger and or more powerful than European or American North goshawks? Thanks, Ben.
By the measurements, it should be a little smaller. Should be a little more gangly and a little lurpy. Any goss, I mean, if you look at a bird field guide of any kind or any bird book, it always makes the accipiters chunkier than they really are. It always makes them look like red tails. They should be narrower, nimbler, and a little lighter. and I would assume less powerful because northern goshawks are tackling some large prey. And one of the biggest reasons to have size, we think about size in terms of tackling prey, but there's another reason too. The more mass you have, the more you can retain heat. So if you're living up all the way up to Arctic environments or areas that have really rough winters, then it makes sense to be beefier, to have more muscles, because those muscles will help retain heat and retain that homeostasis. So my understanding is that they are bigger, but not by a whole lot. And I'm not sure on the power or the grip strength, but I would assume that northern goshawks are probably more powerful and probably have more grip strength, just based off of the numbers I've read.
You got a donation. Alexandra donates $7 Canadian and says thank you for the stream.
Thank you so much, and thank you for watching.
And let's see. And then question from Jason Draper. Back again. I think ospreys are fascinating. To your knowledge, has anyone ever taken an osprey for training? Seems like osprey would be a species you get a lot of use from as a food supplier.
Yep. The person who has mastered it in very recent years is named Kenan McClendon. I have no idea how to spell that, but look up Kenan McClendon Osprey. He wrote a book, and I think he wrote up a second book. I bought his first book. I've talked with him several times, and last I checked, he still has, I think he has a YouTube channel, and I know he had a website. So look it up. It is a very odd form. They are far spookier birds than you think, but if you dial everything into a specific way, he hunts basically every day and has incredible luck doing it. So for all the naysayers out there who are always like, oh, this species or that species, rah, rah, rah. It's like, again, Kenan McClendon's like, I love this species. I want to train it to hunt. I'm going to get one and figure out how to do it. And he did it. And he's pioneered the way. So yeah, ospreys absolutely can be, but again, go look up his stuff to get all the details on how, because I have a video on it. I think if you look at my videos just under ospreys, I think I just reviewed his book, but I talked to him as well, and I was very impressed with everything he was doing. He's got it down to an art. So I'm glad I can remember his name. Post brain damage. Like, Kenan McClendon is not a name that's easy to just, it's not like dog or Ben or something like that, John. So but yeah, any bird can be trained. Like, I want to do a laughing falcon, and people would laugh at me for trying to train a laughing falcon, but again, Kenan can train an osprey. I can train a laughing falcon. That'd be cool.
Dax Bone asks, any chance of a facilities walkthrough at some point? I'm always interested to see how others house their raptors.
Yeah, at some point I will. I recently tore down my mews and reset up some rehabber mews, and was kind of in the process of doing that last year when I had the cardiac arrest and died and came back and all that. So I was halfway through that process. So I'm not really happy with how my facilities are right now. I don't think they're the best role model facility. They're good, but again, they're rehabber chambers that were built. A rehabber friend of mine, she would have Eagle Scouts make these to certain specifications and make them that they come apart in parts so that she can move them around. And so she gave those to me, and that's what I've been using. And I haven't gotten around to rebuilding new ones. So, but at some point I'll show it, because I want to do a video talking about the difference between free lofting versus having a bird tethered, because there's a time and a place for both of them. So at some point I will, but it might be a little bit first.
Eating for a Living asks, what birds do you hunt with right now, and how often do you hunt with them?
Right now, mostly a Harris hawk. I was working with that Merlin. I've got some older birds right now. I've got a red-tailed hawk. But we haven't had good enough rabbits. I didn't hunt her. Again, this whole last year, everything I've been doing is mostly doing physical therapy and cognitive therapy, getting back after the cardiac arrest and the stroke. So, but mostly just the Harris hawk. It's a male Harris hawk I inherited, and he's quite old. I think he's like 20 years old, 21 years old. But he's still zippy, and he's happy to go after birds. I haven't pursue. Well, I've gone out after rabbits and he didn't chase them because the guy I got him from, he just hunted mostly cottontails. So I've mostly gone after birds with him, like pigeons and starlings. Has had a little bit of luck with that. Caught a sparrow one time, but yeah. So I really want to get a goshawk again. I really desperately want an old world goshawk of any kind, especially hand-me-down. That's been my favorite bird to fly in recent years. I've had 2 times where I inherited like a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old goshawk, old world goshawk, and they were incredible. I'm like, this is where it's at, man. Just like work with somebody else, like, hey, I'll buy a bird from you and you fly it for a few years and I'll get it from you in 3 years. It's like, they're such cool birds. But I mean, there's nothing like making your own bird from scratch, just really dialing them in the way you want to. So I don't know, we'll see. It's not too late to still get a goss this year, but we'll find out.
I think I'm caught up on questions at the given moment. Just a couple of comments. Falcon Sledge said, my facilities are a storage shed right now.
Hey, do what you have to do to be able to do it, be able to do falconry. And I know there's a lot of purists out there that, and I don't fault them. Falcon Sledge, I think there's one you and I both know that I think is in the same valley you're currently living in, who is incredibly left-brained, and it's all about highest of quality. And that particular falconer, he'll get a bird, and then a week later be like, I don't have time for it, and sell it or set it free. And then 2 weeks later he gets another bird, and then I don't have time to do this justice, so I'm going to set it free. So people go to that extreme. To me, it's about getting out with the birds, having fun, learning, flying, hunting, and everybody's on their own journey, and every bird is on their own journey. And we can set high standards, and I think it's good for us to have high standards that we should be living by. I just also think that we should also understand that the human journey is, like, the purpose of life is not falconry. Falconry is a way to experience life. It's a way for the birds to experience life and learn new things, and it's a way for you to experience life and learn new things. So I'm not meaning that as a cop-out to be like, well, don't fly your birds, but I just mean have a balance, and a balance with how you view other people. I think it's a good thing to do.
We got a hello from Jack Krell, who says, hello, Ben. I used to watch your content a few years ago before my interest in falconry waned.
Well, thanks for watching. I appreciate it.
Hallex Talon asks, would you ever free loft a kestrel?
Yes. Yeah, I've done it before, too. I've free lofted kestrels and had it be fine. They're not as bouncy, so usually they do pretty good with it.
Eating for a Living says, have you seen the viral picture of the orange snowy owl? If you have, what are your thoughts on it?
I have not. I'll have to look it up. I know we're getting a lot of weird stuff currently with AI. So, and you have a lot of things that are pretty convincing. So I'd have to take a look at it and see it. But, I mean, you get some amazing color morphs. And all it takes is one gene to be off, to have something wackadoodle. Like you see with, I don't know, like pigeons, where one gene is switched and suddenly every feather on their body is all curly and wild. Or to have feathers going all the way down your legs, you know. So you can have that. And I've seen great horned owls in the north that are as white as a snowy owl. If you didn't see the horns, you'd probably think that they were a snowy owl. But yeah, I'll have to check it out. Could be a hybrid too. I don't know if it was a wild one or if it was one that people captive bred. But I mean, there's a lot of owl hybrids. Owls hybridize incredibly easily, and if you cross something like a Eurasian eagle owl with a snowy owl, you could easily get a snowy owl that's orange and look pretty cool.
Daxbone says, you helped me with aggression in my first bird after his molt last year. Just wanted to say thanks so much for giving me some of time and knowledge. You are very welcome anytime, and I always try to help. A lot of times have a hard time getting back to people, or I get so busy with things, but I'm always, if you can catch me, I'm always happy to help. And yeah, I think aggression is something that all falconers have to face
no matter where you are, and no matter where you are in time. Even ancient falconers had to deal with it too. So I think helping each other, troubleshoot through aggression issues is really good. It's amazing what a bird can be fixed from. The bird that you think is just so violent. What's his name? Not Matt Mullenix. The guy who wrote The Imprint Accipiter. His name's spaced me at the moment. He also wrote another book called Accipitrine Behavioral Problems. And it's a pretty good book. It's got some good ideas. That's a good one for addressing aggression with any birds. But again, I think some of my principles with my videos, if you watch my videos on aggression, I've got some pretty cut and dry ideas on how to avoid it. Because again, the whole principle is we think aggression is bad. It's not. It's natural. It's where it's directed at. So don't think of it as, I got to get my bird to stop being aggressive towards me or my dog or something. It's like, no. I got to move that aggression towards the lure. Move that. Repoint it like, look over here, bird. Yeah, you want to address that aggression at stuff you're trying to hunt. It's just about doing that.
Falcon Sledge says Mike McDermott.
That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Mike McDermott. Mike McDermott's he's a funny guy. He's very accomplished too.
I don't have anything new for you really at the moment here.
All right. Should we end with a story? Okay, let's what's a species? Let's see. What do you guys want? What species do you want me to talk about? A species, probably North American species. Okay. We're doing the pelican story. We're doing it. Hold on.
Wait, but before you do your pelican story, real quick, last question. Hallex Talon asks, is biothane too rough for Kestrel anklets? Feels stiff.
Yep. That's me. That's my opinion. But I think it's too stiff. Here's the visual. See, is that showing up? Okay, there we go. All right. So, this is Falcon's Ledge, who's on here with us right now. One of the coolest falconers and brothers you'll ever have. He's a really cool dude, and he loves long wings. He loves to fly long wings. And but years ago, when we were both young new falconers, we were out, and I think I was trying to trap prairie falcons, and we were we're out there. We see this frozen section of pond, and I look out there, and I see a pelican sitting there, and I'm like, well, that's weird. So we went and we're like, I think we went trapping, and we came back around. I'm like, it's still there. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with this thing. I'm gonna go check it out. And you're like, and I think Falcon's Ledge was kind of like, let's go check it out. Okay, fine, whatever. So I go out there and I take a step in the water, and my foot breaks through the ice, and it's like 6 inches of water and then mud underneath. And I go further, and the water and the mud get deeper and deeper and deeper, and the pelican starts going whoop whoop whoop, starts slipping and sliding all over and starts trying to flap away and run away. And I'm like, what the heck? So I start, and I get up to it, and finally I get up to it, and I'm like thinking I'm Steve Irwin or something. I'm like, it's okay, mate. I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna rescue you and find out what's wrong with you. And he's looking over at me like, and all of a sudden, now remember, I'm crotch deep in icy water. So we're like eye to eye. And he just goes out and he's like, whoa, this big old enormous mouth coming at me. And I'm like, no. And he just goes lunging at me. And the sides of the mouth can stretch out. It's all like, and all of a sudden, everything goes black, instantaneous black. And I'm like, I'm dead. This is it. My head has been swallowed by a pelican. I'm like, wait a minute. And all of a sudden I hear this muffled laughing. I hear Falcon's Ledge go, I'm like, what is it? And I'm like, wait a minute. I start feeling around. And I'm like, okay, from his perspective, he's seeing me crotch deep in ice, through the ice, with my head swallowed by a pelican, and I'm just sitting with my butt sticking up in the air, And I'm not moving. I'm just, because I thought I was dead. I was like, this is it. I'm dead. And I'm like, I'm just sitting there. He's laughing his head off. I'm like, and I grab the pelican. I lift the mouth off. And I like clamp it down. I'm like, don't ever do that again. So I wrap my hand around the beak, and I grab them. And these things are huge. They're bigger than a goose. They're massive. And it's like, and Falcon's ledge kept laughing and laughing. And he's like, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, yeah, you think it was funny? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, it was. And I'm like, fine. So I let go of the pelican, and the pelican lunges at his face. But unlike me, I wasn't able to move away. He did. And so the very tip, pelicans don't bite hard, but the tip of their beak is razor sharp. And it just grabbed him by the neck and slashed his neck. He's bleeding all over. He's like, oh man, this hurts so bad. I'm like, what are you complaining about? I got my whole head swallowed. He's like, oh yeah, man. I'm like, but it didn't hurt, you know. So then we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna get this thing back? So we like put it in his truck, and we drove home, and we're like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. We stopped by the gas station, and this Mexican family came by, and they were like all like hitting at the window, and it's like wah, 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 just lunging at the window. And but yeah, it was so then when I got home, I carried it down the stairs, and I start kicking on the door, boom, boom, boom. And my now ex-wife, this is not why she's my ex-wife, but she opens up the door because she hears pounding. She looks down at the pelican, and she's like, she looks at me, looks at the pelican, and just goes and closes the door and locks it. I'm like, open the door, I need your help. So, but yeah, that pelican, we ended up, that's one of the stories in the book. But I think we tried to get it to a rehab or something, but it was like right over Christmas break or something. So, but I was wild. So there's the pelican story for you. If you ever catch me by a campfire, I'll do a way better version showing my butt sticking up in the air and showing it lunging at John. So show all of it. It'll be great. Good stuff.
Yeah, he added, it also smelled like death in that mouth hole.
That thing was so gross. It was stinky.
Okay, sorry, I've got one last question that snuck past me. Jonathan Mulligan, my ultimate goal is to be a golden eagle owner. The path I plan to take is own a kestrel for 3 years, then pursue other birds as a general. How much time commitment is a golden eagle?
I mean, it just depends on how close you are to good flying fields. So that's your biggest gobble up of time, is getting out to where you can actually fly and fly safely and where you have quarry. So if you live right next town, then, it's like, yeah, I think if you have a golden eagle trained in, going out flying for an hour probably makes sense. A lot of eagle flyers like to fly them from a soar, so that can get longer. But if you're just out hunting off the fist, it's no different than a red tail. It's just driving. So most people would figure like an hour a day. It's pretty normal.
One more.
Mm-hmm.
McFly asks, do you ever go to any of the primitive skills gatherings like Rabbit Stick or Winter Count?
I went to Rabbit Stick in my 20s years ago. I really loved it. I would like to go again. I'm getting back into Flint. I don't have any good percussion stuff nearby, do we? I'm a master percussionist, not the instrument, but making percussion tools versus most flint knappers are pressure flakers, and I pressure flake too, but I no the like the blades, I don't know, they're kicking around here somewhere. But yeah, I would very much like to go to Rabbit Stick again. I think it's really good to share and learn those primitive skills, and I've got a lot of those videos coming up. I'm going to be showing some of the basics, like how to make an atlatl. I'm going to do in the spring. It got too hot. I might do it in the fall, but I'm going to do pigments. I'm going to go out and get earth pigments and show how to make paint with them that will last, and how to make hide glue, and how to do a bow and drill fire, and how to do a pump drill to drill holes in things. So got a lot of that stuff coming up too. So that will be coming up, but I would very much like to get back into the communities going to Rabbit Stick and all that, and Winter Count. I think it'll be really good. All right. Okay. Well, everybody, let me know in the comments how often you would like to see these. Like I said, if people wanted these often enough, I could see like every other week doing them, a couple times a month. right now, I feel like that would be within my range. But if you want more, if you want less, if that's too often, let me know. Just let me know your thoughts on this. And I appreciate all of your help. I appreciate all your support. And like I said, if you want my book, you can get that at Western Sporting Publications, Trapping Essentials. If you want to support me on Patreon, the link should be in the description. And I just appreciate all of your help and your support. And as always, happy hawking.